discussed in this forum. We don't find it in this forum. The pain, the agmas nefesh, the anguish that a person experiences when he's mis'or l'asas teshuvah, when he has this is'orus to do teshuvah. There's this mixture of excitement and dread and this feeling of pain, which Rav Kook analyzes. He says, again, his words, when a person begins to think about doing teshuvah and to change his life, and not just what he does, not just masa, but rikshoisav, to work on himself, on his feelings. I feel levad. Even the person is just considers this, just thinks about, just thought of teshuvah. I feel so he explains. I feel teshuvah adayin nimtzas rak b'machshava lo b'maisa. Even though the person hasn't actually gotten around to changing or doing anything yet, he's just considering change, thinking about teshuvah. Lo yipol libo b'kirbo. So Rav Kook says he shouldn't be discouraged. Lo yipol libo b'kirbo, because he's terrified. Because all of a sudden, these averos that he tried not to think about, that he was ignoring all year, suddenly they're yosem rogoshim. Suddenly he feels them in a very strong way. He's going back into the past, and he's looking at himself and seeing that it's not as beautiful as he was making believe. So Rav Sasson explains, when a person is mis'or to do teshuvah, and all of us have his service this time of the year to do teshuvah. He feels the averos much more than during the entire year. He feels the presence of those sins. They come up again on his screen. And the ugliness of those things that he did wrong. This is very unpleasant. It's very unpleasant. Things that we did, things that we said, things that we were thinking about that we shouldn't have, and so on. We prefer to just move on and put them in the past, and now here they are again. So it's a hargosh mod lo ni'ima. Halul liyos ba'archrav, which could liyos ba'archrav, which means it could cause damage. It could cause a setback. In other words, it could have a very negative effect on a person. That's what we see, for instance, at the Svarma Kedoshim. The Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya says, like when it says in the pasuk, "Chatosi kenegdi samid." So those are strong words. Chatosi kenegdi samid means that my averos are always before my eyes. But the Alter Rebbe says that if a person lives in that way, that his averos are always in front of his eyes, which you look at this from the Muslims talk a lot about living that way. So the Alter Rebbe says that nowadays you wouldn't get out of bed, you wouldn't move on, you just wouldn't be able to go on with your life. Chatosi kenegdi samid, that your averos are mamish sitting in front of you and constantly being replayed in front of you. You can't live like that. You can't live. So the Alter Rebbe explains that the word kenegdi we see in Tanakh, like when it says Vayavdu keneged har, it says the Bnei Yisrael stood across from the mountain. It means from a distance. It doesn't mean that they were standing with their faces on the mountain. It means the mountain was far away. It's there looming, the mountain, but you're not with your face on the mountain. So Batanya says that a person has to recall, has to sometimes revisit. Teshuvah means to revisit those less attractive parts of life, to revisit them, to do teshuvah. But one doesn't live in that way where it's constantly before you, because you can't continue. You wouldn't be able to live. That's why Bechlal, the Baal Tanya, and all the Talmidei Hashem said that a person should, we've spoken about this so many times over the years, that a person should set aside a certain time during the week, that there's a few minutes to be mahar in these things, and we're learning about in his borders, by his borders, through Cheshbon Nefesh, Mishpat, that we're learning about by his borders. But otherwise, what he's explaining here is that this very, very this terrible feeling of looking at oneself in that way and seeing the mistakes of the past could cause a very, very bad setback in a person's life. Unless you understand this in the right way. And that's what this Sif in Eretz Teshuvah is about. Understanding these feelings in a healthy way. The fact that thinking, remembering our mistakes of the past is so painful, that's probably the main reason, the main cause, Sharabim Soldim, Uma'asim B'Teshuvah, that many people just recoil and can't stand it, disgusted with the whole thing of Teshuvah. The Koishrim Ayasa, and associate the next page, Im Halka Atzmis, and associate all thoughts of Teshuvah and feelings of Teshuvah with a terrible inadequacy of oneself. Utchushois Amukas Shel Yeyush, which bring to very deep feelings of Yeyush, of despair, Ushviras Nefesh, and it's a brachin kait, it breaks a person. Halolufnei Teshuvah Hegishu Atzmam Tovim. Before Rosh Hashanah, before Elul and Rosh Hashanah, we were happy. We felt good. We were pretty content with ourselves. And then what happens is if I feel Ha'ilam She'ifas or it's on his Tovim, and even if a person during the course of the year has all kinds of aspirations and good ritzaynus to do good things, the case Bahat Teshuvah, and now all of a sudden Teshuvah season has arrived. Of course, every day is, but now it's Elul, it's Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, so Teshuvah season is here. Ma'amida b'fneim kol pegameim. So now you have the magnifying glass on. You know, I remember there was a book that we read in high school. It's a very famous book called Gulliver's Travels. You remember from Jonathan Swift? He was a very, very chashuv writer, and it's really a remarkable book. The whole thing is a political commentary because what was going on at that time in England. But one of the nakudas that I remember so clearly was, remember the first Gulliver was in a place where everybody was tiny. He was a giant, and then he was a place where he was tiny and everybody else was a giant. So, you remember that? Yeah, Lilliputians. Yeah. So, no, it's a whole marshal. It's a very harsh marshal of what was going on in the world at that time in Europe. But there was one nakuda that I remember is that when he was tiny, when he was in this place of giants, so there was this. So he was he was like a bug, and he was on the face of some very attractive woman, and when he was in that state of being like this little bug on the face of that person, I haven't seen this is like 55 years ago, but when he was on the face of that person, so he saw like all of the pimples and all of the stuff on the skin, and he wasn't seeing that beautiful face. He was seeing it up close. And whenever you examine something up close and you study it in that way, this is Aish. I don't have to translate that. It's not so beautiful. It's not so beautiful. So what happens is that it comes to El Rosh Hashanah, and everybody has their magnifying glass. Every Elachid, every God-fearing Jew, is walking around with a magnifying glass, and he's starting to look at his life, and it's Nisazoshay. It's not so beautiful. So what happens is Ma'amidu name is Kol Pegameim, the same way in that story that all of a sudden he saw that her complexion, this beautiful woman's complexion, was not so beautiful. It has all kinds of things on it, and when you look at things with a magnifying glass, the conclusion you could come to is that I'm a bad person. I'm a mushchas. How did I say that like that? How did I talk like that? What did I do? What was I thinking? All those feelings that we have. It seems to a person, and really, it's so easy for the kids to grow up with this thought, and it's very hard to get rid of this. the associations that from the time that we're young. There's these associations. A very wonderful woman that she wrote a book about. I think vidui for children or something that came out, and she contacted me and asked me to write something, and I said, please, respectfully, I'm not doing it. It's I just don't. I don't. You should have success with everything you're doing, and I'm sure it's fantastic, and you're doing a huge mitzvah. But I don't believe that the vidui should be any more explicit or translated for children. As a matter of fact, I think that children should basically ignore all of that, and that's not a time to do such a thing. The children grow up, and from the time that they're kids, they carry that with them into adulthood. That this is a miserable time, and Teshuvah is a time of yeyush, and just to get past it, and to put everything again away, and to just make believe and go back to life. Because the feeling is that the inyan shel Teshuvah Adam, that the whole inyan of Teshuvah is yeyush, is to tell you that you're hopeless, Mikol hanekudas hatoivos, that you have no hope. Mikol hanekudas hatoivos she'od choshev shekayamos ba, anything good that you thought that you had in you, forget about it. Ulismaked b'kishlanoisa, and the thought of Teshuvah is to be focused on all of my failures. And b'teva, people can't stand to think about their failures. So this is what Teshuvah means. I would probably say to most people in the world, this is what Teshuvah means. I mean, there's no study of this, but that's what Teshuvah means. A healthy person does not love these feelings of negativity, of discouragement, of despair, of failure, of ugliness. They don't like these feelings and these encounters with the darker side. Hofeches HaTeshuvah, the davar bilti nizbal or bilti ratzui. Teshuvah becomes something which is unbearable. Hayom hanaroy, l'dugma, hovchim l'davar kasha umeik. Therefore, this time of the year, become davar kasha, something hard, umeik, and something which it hurts. It hurts. It's unsettling. It's hurtful. Im kol hashon ha'odam barach mehat Teshuvah. The whole year the person is running away, like Adam Rishon hiding in the garden among the trees, and that's how we are the whole year. Umeis askus impegamav. The person doesn't want to be busy with his blemishes, with the less attractive complexion, the way that he looks to the world. He doesn't want to be busy with that stuff. Hine boim yomim elu. All of a sudden, these days appear again. Here they are again. The charadosim and all the pachad, the fear. And then again, going over, talks that you heard and things, notes that you have and memories and so on. And, you should be shaking like the fish in the water, right? All the things that... And ma'amidim es ha'adam b'mish'al tsar. You feel like you're in this narrow, like in a maze. You feel you're in this narrow path. She'ein mimenu miflat, and there's just to try to get past this. There's no way to escape. Uma'altzim asoi, and the Torah and halacha and the davening is forcing me, so to admit, to face, and to admit that I'm a Russian, or that I've done terrible, disgusting things. So what's happened is that the most illuminated and pure and beautiful days of the year have changed in our eyes. The morim, to be bitter, the most bitter and painful time of the year. For most people, the machzor is much, much, much more bitter than a little kazayis of Mara, I would say. Much more bitter. Can you imagine if they would have that like, it'd be Leil Pesach, and they would say, and they'd put up like that baltfila that you can't stand, and you'd be at the Seder, and they'd say, okay, Vayimor is Chayehim, and you'd read the Haggadah, and all of a sudden, a Navi would say we have a new way of feeling the bitterness of slavery. You say, I'm not having a couple pieces of lettuce. No. And all of a sudden, that worst chasm steps into the room. And the Navi says, you're now obligated to listen, to participate. And they give you this fat book with 1 million words that you don't understand, and nigunim that you're tired of, and they say, okay, enjoy. You'll be out, 6 hours from now. That's not. And then we have seriously a little bit of lettuce. Everybody here knows about tefillah. That would have been in Mitzrayim much worse than any other thing. Or to be stuck in and not doing what you want to do, but that's nothing compared to the bitterness of facing oneself and one's mistakes and one's faults. And if you take things serious, obviously for the people who don't take this stuff seriously, it's just a schlep, and try to find the fastest minion in town or the fastest minion in the shul, and just let's get this over with. Let's just get this over with. And get back to the program, get back to eating, get back to sleeping, whatever. Just Arizal says you're allowed to sleep on Rosh Hashanah. Let's get back to after Chatzos. Is there any shul that except maybe Vasikin? Arizal says so after Chatzos you can take a nap. It's like, wow, that's great. Arizal said that. It means it's like a Kabbalistic thing. Take a nap on Rosh Hashanah, because we all grew up hearing that. How could you sleep? You're being judged, you're in court, and you're going to sleep, you're in court, you're going to sleep, you're going to sleep, you're going to sleep. And like while the teacher's saying that, we're all falling asleep. And this fear, this pachad, how could you even put your head on a pillow? How dare you? Do you know that you're right now, that you're standing you're in court in front of the judge, and the guillotine is ready, and the executioner is standing there with like a black hood, and he's waiting for your head, and you're going to sleep. So how are you supposed to look forward to a day like that? I can't wait for Yom Neroim. Seriously, the stuff that I grew up hearing, you need your whole life to be in therapy just to deal with it. Just to try to get past it, to get over it. Stuff that I heard, the scary stuff. You don't feel that way? It's because your head was already chopped off. You don't have a head. You don't have a heart. If you had a head, if you had a heart, you'd be terrified. You wouldn't be able. You'd be shaking like the fish in the water. And I'm not saying that. And Tzaddikim said these things, and they were neged to earlier generations. But how does a person come to Yom Tov in such a way? And these are the most beautiful days, but they turn into the most painful days. So Teshuvah triggers all of those things for many people. The word Teshuvah triggers these feelings. The kain ha'feches Teshuvah midover nifla u'marnin. It's changed from something which is amazing and marnin, which means refreshing and exciting. It's coming to expand all that's good in a person, to draw out all that's good, and to illuminate, and to bring out in his life all that's positive, all that's good, and all that's holy. And instead, it becomes l'davar koder. It becomes something which is dark. Hamarasik is an effort that crushes the soul. Umashia tam neuro mashpil, and leaves a terrible, terrible taste that's mashpil, that degrades the person. Al kain, therefore, harav mechazik umayr. Therefore, Rav Kook is mechazik us. He's teaching us. Lo yipobikib mashu nechon neirei rav anishnasos leyas megoshim. Not to slip into this terror, into this fear, into this depression over that sudden awareness of all of the pock marks and all of the warts. Don't let that happen. Shekain ha'uvda shebeglal ha'tshuva nasu avanis morgoshim yoser. The very fact that you're becoming now more sensitive to the failures of the past year, he edus, that itself is the greatest edus, the greatest testimony. Al hiskadmusu shel adam. It's the greatest testimony that you're in a good place. That doesn't mean that everything is is the way it has to be, but it's a very strong siman that you're a person, that you're moving forward, that they're his katmos. Kikachu, Rav Kook's words, Kikachu teva hadar, because the nature of things is shekol zman she'adam hu nirdaf v'nei zav hatev hagas, as long as a person is pursued, in other words, as long as a person is caught up in his coarse nature, in just this, in his natural state, mirutzas achayim, just the routine of life, busyness of life, she'ein in a sense pnailas boni, which doesn't give a person a chance to sit and to think. That's why we're talking about learning his bordus. Chabur is so important, is to have time, to make time for his bordus and mishpat, judging oneself and so on. So v'cheshkas, Rav Kook's words, v'cheshkas hamidas eros hasavavos also. All of these terrible midas that he's surrounded with himself, because the whole year he's caught up in so many crazy things, he doesn't feel his averos. He doesn't feel them. He's just in this race. He's just in this maze, in this race, that causes him to forget his inner life. That cause him to forget that the inner life of the truth. So Mela, the whole year, he doesn't feel any of these things. He doesn't feel his averos. He doesn't. Ad shelafamim, Rav Kook's words, she'ena magisham klum. Go a whole year doing all kinds of bad things, saying bad things, thinking bad things. Magisham klum. Doesn't feel anything. He just gets up and he goes to shul, does his things, does his mitzvahs and Shabbos and davening. Magisham klum. And he's a tzaddik in his eyes. V'haraya, and one of the greatest proofs of that is how little humility there is in the world. Because if a person would live without awareness of his mistakes and his shortcomings and failures, he'd be a lot more humble. There'd be a lot more humility. He wouldn't be such a loudmouth. Wouldn't be so arrogant. Wouldn't be so confident. Imagine you got a baseball player. The guy's batting, 102. I don't know if you know about that. That's bad. The guy's batting 102. I mean, it's high for temperature, but it's low for baseball. The guy's batting 102. And he's going around talking to kids in the park about giving them batting tips. It's like everybody says, "What are you? You tie cover somebody? So you're low useless. You're a failure." But you see, everybody walks around shul and in life, all kinds of eitzes and balabatim. Oh, everybody knows everything. Everybody knows everything. Everybody knows what to do with the Iranians, what to do with the immigrants, how to run the Knesset, how to run the White House, who should be president. Better than what the rabbi knows about in your synagogue, about what the Torah is saying, about what Hashem wants. Everybody's like a balabas. Everybody's a baldov. If people would be walking around with this, there'd be much more humility. Everybody wouldn't be Rosh Kol Madam. Everybody is like Rosh Kol Madam. The way people talk, the way people carry themselves, and people wouldn't be as chilled and relaxed as they are. It would be a different surah of life. But the teretz is that any magishim klum. Don't look. There's no magnifying glass. There's no. Only with other people you look to see. And wouldn't we be much more tolerant of other people and their mistakes? If we were conscious of our own faults, we'd be infinitely more tolerant of other people's problems. We'd be much more tolerant of other people. But we're intolerant. I'm just saying this. There's an intolerance with any single fault of a husband, of a wife, of a friend, of a kid, of a parent. Every single thing is magnified. Where's the humility? What about your own? What about your own chesronos? Who are you? So you see that we don't need many rayas that we go through the whole year without thinking about, without looking at ourselves carefully. We'd be much more humble. We'd be much more tolerant, much more understanding, much more compassionate. But when you're tzaddik in your own eyes, you need to learn so what Rav Sasson is explaining, Rav Kook, is that the real problem is when you're living like this, when you think of yourself as a tzaddik. That should worry you. In other words, the fact that you're not worried at all during the year, that's something to worry about. The fact that you are the way that I was just describing, just looking down at other people and being so confident and arrogant and so on, that's something that should cause concern, deep concern. Listen, we're all very vulnerable, and we all are on the verge of making mistakes in our lives and failing. Therefore, Chazal tell us that a person should always, there should always be this quality of caution that comes with that humility of knowing that it's so easy for me to slip up. I've done it a million times in the past. It's so easy for me to slip up. Daiga zu mi'ida, and when a person lives in that daiga, daig libo b'kirba, when a person lives with that daiga, again, it doesn't mean an obsession, chas v'shalom. It doesn't mean terror. Nothing that's unhealthy. But it means a certain delicate and gentle, ever-present humility, caution, and fear. Caution. To live a cautious life, knowing how so many times I've slipped. To be cautious. And when a person has this way of living, sumeidal tahara pnimis, it reflects upon, it bears testimony of a certain inner purity that this person has. A pureness, a tahara pnimis. Valakara amitis, and a true awareness, that we're not perfect. And that's, Hashem doesn't tell us to be perfect. But living with that awareness of our imperfections. V'olav lishma atzmon, therefore, you have to be careful. To live in a way where you're careful with what you say, with what you're looking at, with what you're doing, because you know that in a moment, in a second, you could slip into the abyss. And we've all been there, and that happens. And to know that, and to be honest about it. So Chazal tell us, the Gemara tells us, that there are certain prerequisites to learning Sisrei Torah, to learning the secrets of Torah. This is a very big subject in the Svar Makdosha, but there are certain prerequisites to be able to understand, to learn and to understand Sisrei Torah, the secrets of Torah. One of the most important conditions or prerequisites of learning Sisrei Torah, Shia Libo Doeg Bikirbo. That a person should have this worried heart, a heart that worries. Again, not in an extreme, unhealthy way, but a heart that worries. A heart that worries. Daigazu. That type of a daiga, that worry, is the correct response or the correct attitude, approach to the Metzias that we're living in. Because we're living in a Metzias that's dangerous. That's dangerous. Ein lichyos ba'shalyos ba'euphoria, not to live in delusions and euphoria. Shel tzadikus gemur ki'ilu you're a tzadik. Hanakia, gemur hanakia, u'betucha mikol michshol, that you're totally confident and everything is gewaldig. Like in the cartoons, you used to have like a Bugs Bunny, that he'd be like on a tall, like a skyscraper, a construction on the skyscraper. There were these beams They were being pulled by a crane, and he's walking like on one, and then he goes on to another. He walks on. That's not that's not a good way to live. That's for the cartoons. That's not in real life. But people live like that. People live like that. Complete. But there's no. I'm not gonna. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'm not falling. Therefore, Rav Kook is telling us that, and the Gemara is telling us that Davka, a person who is worried about his aveiros, worried, not obsessed, but he's concerned. Motzui bechevra toiva. That person who has this concern about his mistakes, Motzui bechevra toiva, chevras kol hafeitzim b'tikun b'skadus. He's now by having this type of a worry or concern, he's in the company of very, very chashuva people, who want to be better. The fact that you have those daigas, the fact that it worries you, that you're worried, that Elul brings to a feelings of concern, not to go into that place of running away. Running away is when it causes you to be afraid and triggers all those horrible memories, and you look at yourself, God forbid, like a Russia. No. But to be concerned, then you're part of a very elite group of people in the world who are actually trying to make progress and to move forward. Imkain, the next page. So Rav Kook's words, Kevin shekoicha musari misora. That feeling of discomfort, of concern, of worry, that pinch of pain that comes with thoughts of Teshuvah. B'shor shehirhar b'Teshuvah, when the person has this feeling, this thought of Teshuvah, miyad nigla or haneshama. It means, when you have that feeling, it means that you're getting a glimpse of the light of your soul, of who you really are. It's an amazing time. It's an amazing time. It's gilui nigla or haneshama. There's a gili of the Or HaNeshama the whole year. The Neshama could be blocked and clouded over, and you don't see anything at all of the Neshama. That's how you just go on. We go on like that, like nothing. Now here, there's like this hole that's punched in that confident, arrogant tzaddik, make-believe tzaddik, the veneer. There's a hole that's punched in it. And there's the Or of the Neshama. The light of the Neshama has broken through that darkness. That's cause for celebration. That's why Rosh Hashanah is such a strange time. It's the happiest day, and it's also a worrisome time this time. Teshuvah me'ira b'adam es Or HaNeshama. It suddenly shines into the soul, the Or HaNeshama. Into the person's mind, into his heart, rather, the light of the neshama. And it's awakening. The highest part of a person has been awakened from its sleep, and that higher part of the person comes and tells the person, "Zalotov, you can't go on like this." The neshama comes along and says, "I'm worried about you. I'm worried about you. The way that you're living, the way that you're talking, the way that you're thinking." The way that you're going on with your life, I'm worried about you. And the Neshama says to that person, I'm worried about you. This light is like a torch in a dark room. In Rav Kook's words, yes, but now that you have this light, so you see all the warts. Who is Kolk Sameh, you see all the stains. V'libo doig b'kirbo, and you're worried. B'charada gedola, and there is this feeling of terror. Al miyud shleimuso, with this sudden awareness of how far, far away you are from shleimus, how far we are from perfection. And to what a deep place we fall. So Sasson explains, This is a very important thing to remember. The fact that a person is now seeing his faults, he's seeing the pagamim, he's seeing the ugliness of his life, and to recognize the averis, and to remember the averis that he did. Where does that memory come from? Where do those thoughts come from? The whole year he didn't think about it. Novas mihashaychus el masha hafuch mimenu el taharas hanesham. It's coming from that, all of that which is the opposite of sin, the opposite of that darkness, the opposite of the ugliness. These thoughts are coming from the holiest place of who you are. It's coming from taharas hanesham, from that pure child inside of you, that's crying to be remembered. That's what's coming from. Because it's that pure child inside of you that recoils from the ugliness that you brought into his life, into her life, that feels so horrified by what you've damaged. It's that child, it's that pure child inside of you that still cares, that still wants to change, that still believes that it's possible to change. But of course, that's mo'ira, this fear, and we have all these mixed emotions. The famous Chabad Mashpia that Tzaddik Mendel Furtefas, so when he was in Siberia, so he was there with all different characters. There are a lot of interesting stories of people that he was with. They weren't Jews. He was mostly with all these Russian prisoners of war. It was all kinds of interesting people. So he said, Mendel said that there was with him together in his bunk. There was a guy that worked. There was a fellow that worked in the circus. He was from the circus, and he was his act was to be a tightrope. The tightrope, to walk on. That's what's tightrope, right? To walk on the rope. That was his job in the circus. So Mendel was talking to friends, and Mendel was talking to him one day, and he asked him, whatever his name is, Ivan Igor. He asked him, he said, Mendel said, it's an amazing thing you did. In those years, they didn't do it like over nets. They did it like it was, and Mendel asked him, like, what's the scariest part of the tightrope? He said, the scariest part is when I have to turn around on it. That's the scariest part. When I have to turn and go the other way. As long as I'm just going, it's not scary. But when I have to turn around, that's when it's scary. So Mendel, you hear this. What does it mean, turning around? Turning around is Teshuvah. Teshuvah means going back. It means turning around, changing, facing that possibility of it hasn't been perfect and I need to do something about it. That's turning around on the tightrope. It's not like this in life. You go. But when you have to turn around on the tightrope, so Mendel said, it's a gewaldige Moshe that he learned from this circus guy. That's because it hurts to see the trail of mistakes that was left behind. Avadavka, Rav Kook says, Avadavka oz yasem alibo. But Davka, when you're feeling this, now you can go in two directions. You could either just run away from Teshuvah and run into those feelings of, like, just getting finished with Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, or the Hak in Shul, where did you get that stender? Why did you get a stender? Your chair is softer than mine. They're torturing me. I have back problems, and then the shul's going to be sued for hurting me, destroying my life. You can go into the Hak, because every shul has Hak. Every shul. By the Kodesh, there's the most Hak of anywhere in the world. Every shul has Hak. Every shul has all kinds of things that is not yours, and this is that whole world of synagogue life that we live in. There's a book that was written 50 years ago called Synagogue Life. There's a sociologist that's put a magnifying glass on how Jews are with each other like how like a regular day in shul, like all the things that we don't pay attention to that are so funny and interesting.
We're having the kechels this week about things in shul.
Yeah. So that's you put a magnifying glass on that. I mean, if a person that's not Jewish or not familiar with these things will look at like what goes on in shul. It's the craziest place. It's the funniest place, right? So you could just forget about it and just you're looking at that. You know what? You took a little bit. The light of the neshama came a little bit in. There was a flash of light, and you started to see some things that were not good. So what a lot of people do is this. I don't want to go there. I'm not going to be there. And what are we going to do? We'll talk about what's for lunch. We'll think about the tzimmus, whatever. And stam. What are the conversations at the Rosh Hashanah table after a whole morning of daven? The conversations is all ways of running away. Just I don't want to face any of this. That's one possibility. Or the other possibility is just the opposite. Rav Kook says, that now that you've seen something, and this daiga that it brings, this concern and worry that it causes, these are like Eliyahu is coming to say, Eliyahu is coming to tell you good news. The good news is that kid inside of you, Elepnach, he's still alive. That little boy, that little girl, you remember? Before all the bad stuff? He's still alive. She's still alive. Elepnach. Chai v'kayim. The pure higher self is still there. Still alive. Don't give up. This is good news that you could have a Yeshua Salam. The Tikkun HaNefesh, and you could fix things. You should know that you're in a good place. You're connecting to the Or of the Neshama, to the light of the soul. That's why these things hurt you, and you're not just whitewashing. You're not just saying like you usually do the whole year. No. Even if you have a thought, weiter, you just go weiter. No. The strongest proof that a person is moving away from his aveiros, is pulling out of that dark room. Is Davka that the strongest sign is because he is the fact that he's worried about it. It concerns him. Therefore, you have to read this feeling in this map. You have to read this clearly. You have to read this in an accurate and healthy way. Rav Kook says, Yosim Elibo, to take the heart, that in this discomfort and pain, in this daiga, in this worry that you have, there is a besura toiva, there's good news. V'yischazik ma'oid b'zeh b'Hashem Elokav. V'yischazik b'Hashem Elokav in Hashem. Meaning that Kaiser Rav Malcolm Acher, and we find from Rav Kook, in another place he writes the following, Mazula Shaina. Rav Kook's words, Taharis an neshama goremes yishamagishim yafa b'kol hachatoim. Davka, the pureness of the soul causes a person to feel all of the chatoim, to feel the sins. Because the background of the person's soul is absolutely pure. So if you have like a Velt's painting, like whatever, the most Mona Lisa, and there's a little bit of somebody spritz something on it. It's a whole churban because this is a painting of perfection, and all of a sudden there's a black dot on it. But the background is perfect, and there's a black dot. So you feel that blackness of that imperfection. That means that you're among those people where the path towards repair is there. There's a path leading towards improvement. It's open before you. The fact that these things, that you care about these things and you're thinking about them, means that the path towards improvement is wide open before you. Shatikun leis ata nira sosum obilti efshari, because it seems, right, at this time it seems I can't possibly be better. I can't change these things. Harav melamed osanu shahagorim lahargish esachet vesnivulo hitai rosh shal neshama. That Rav Kook is teaching us that what causes a person to feel the aveiros is davka the tahara shal neshama, is the pureness of the soul. Lo rishusa shal ha'adavavsusa. Not but you think I'm such a rasha. No, it's davka the beauty of the painting that's causing you to feel that mark on it. Those who are just altogether infested with ugliness, they don't think about these things at all. It's not b'chal. They're the baligaiva of the world. They don't feel these things at all. Al-Kain of Kook says, Ein lihi boil klal mimasha magishim as kol ma'asa avanis. Don't become frightened by the fact that you feel the weight of your aveiros. Lo yigumu la'adam shumis vashlus b'shleimus, and let them not cause you, God forbid, to be weak and to give up. Bo Torah v'simchasa, to in any way become weak with the light of Torah and the joy of Torah. V'chayfish b'mahalach hadas, and the freedom that you have to think clearly and to move forward. So he explains, also it's forbidden to allow the pain that you feel over the anguish that you feel over your sins to cause you to be Aish, to give up. Because the message that you might get and that we often got, the message is that you're not a person that could ever reach Kedusha.
Amen.
You're not royal Kedusha. You're not a person that's worthy of any kind of hasagas of Kedusha, of holiness, the Torah, of being great in Torah. So for a person like you to learn a little bit of art here and there of Torah, it's good enough. Who are you? You're disgusting. So you're gonna sit and learn. The simcha chavas hadas, but to experience simcha and chavas hadas. Lo yeush tzarich amales halei b'hargoshes achet. Instead of feeling yeush, instead of feeling despair at that time when you feel the chet, or during this time of the year, lahepach should be the opposite. Idud v'tikva should be encouraging and give you hope. V'lama, why? So Rav Kook says, because this feeling of fear and confusion, whatever, when you notice your aveiros, that itself is the sign that your soul is working, that your neshama is that the heart of that Jewish heart is pumping, that it's working, your neshama is alive. And so he explains, and if that inner part, if that inner world is still alive, it means that you have the ability to purify your outer life, your external life. You have the ability to conquer new territory in your day-to-day life. Because the pneumius of a person is the strongest koach in the world. The pneumius, the koach of the neshama is 1,000,000,000 times more than anything in the guf. So the koach of the neshama comes from, it's a chelik will come your mouth. It's infinite. It's unlimited. V'tachrias kol ha'chluchim, and can knock away all the filth. V'achitzonim, all ha'chluchim achitzonim v'tisnakim. Everything in a second can be cleaned, can be purified. The neshama, the koach of the neshama. Mimela gam ha'chatoim shenira she'en efsharos lasakin yisuknu l'sayt. That even therefore you should be confident and know that even those aveiros that you think that you can't fix, you can. Of course you can. When you come into contact with your neshama, you're invincible. There's nothing you can't do. It's only in the guf. The guf is Yisayid Me'of for the Soulful life. But the neshama, that's why we say by Nisan HaToikef. So all the stuff, so you're thinking about, right, the mi b'eish mi b'mayim, so the aveiros. But then we don't end Nisan HaToikef like that. How do we go? Vatu Melachai v'kayom. That's my neshama. Ain't kitzvah. That's all. to Melchai V'Kayim. Chai V'Kayim is in the Neshama. So all that stuff that was upsetting, all these things, Chai V'Kayim, invincible. Don't think Melchai V'Kayim is that the Rebbeinu is someplace and he's helping out good people, but not you. Melchai V'Kayim means that Chelik coming out inside of you. Is Chai V'Kayim, is alive. So as a person looking at you, see somebody observing from the outside saying, what are they, out of their minds? They're reading all this stuff about me, Aish, me, mine, me with this and me with that, and the second later was dum bum 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 bada bum bum bum. Crazy people. Crazy people. The rest of the world, if they finish that stuff, they shoot themselves. and the Jews are going to da 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 da. It's like the happiest day of your life. Teshuvah, Tefillah, Tzedakah, Melech Chai V'Kayim as well. Melech Chai V'Kayim. I want to thank you for helping me to be a person that remembers the truth and that wants to be better, and that I know that I'm living on that tightrope of miyach and miyomas. Thank you for that. I'm a person that remembers that. I remember that. V'loshon harav, b'vadai yiftechu lefonav drachim, and certainly this person who's in this parsha, they will open up new paths before him. Eich lahafrech lezachias, how to change all the averos into schuyas. How to change everything into something that's good. Even though right now you're looking at some of these averos, I can't see a way out of this. Hashem will open up for you a path. Hashem is Baruch, can do anything. And when you know that you're on His team and He's with you, anything you could do. All this stuff, it's mamish, it's a gelechter, it's a joke. You think I'm addicted to this. I can't possibly change this in my life. I can't make that turn on the tightrope. It's a fear that you have. It's all in your mind. It's not true. It's not true. When you go with Hashem, you'll find a path to fix these things. I feel a half to change them to complete mitzvahs. That means the Teshuvah me'ahava, the highest Teshuvah. It's called Chatav. B'tchilas haSefer, the Sefer Perek Harishon be Biser Lano Harav she'ateshuvah muchrachas lavo she'besofa lavo. At the very beginning of the Sefer, Rav Kook wrote in the beginning of verse Teshuvah, the first parak, that Teshuvah muchrachas lavo. Teshuvah must come. V'she'sofa lavo, and it will come. It's just a matter of time. It must, and it has to, and it will. Because it's the true nature of a Jew. And we're guaranteed and promised that in the end we're going to make that turn on the tightrope. Because the pnimius of a Jew is nishmas elokim chayim, melech chai v'kayim, or a shchinas Hashem. V'yiratzon shenizker kolonu l'teshuvah L'shiva Malaya El Noam Hashem V'Avasa. We should be zecher to do tshuva and to return completely to the sweetness and the love of Hashem. L'shiva Osar Eleinu, but to feel Hashem returning to us. V'Ahava with love. V'Gilui Oira, and to see the light of tshuva, the revelation of that light. We should return completely to fill all of the borders, to fill Eretz Yisrael, and to Blemishes, Amen. There's no better way than that.